Donald Trump has business dealings all over the world. With Trump in as president, leaders in at least 18 countries have more than political interest in the United States. They will also have potential business leverage to curry favor with President Trump. Take China. China is home to the country's largest state-owned commercial bank, the Industrial and Commercial Bank of China, but it has an office in Trump Tower in New York City, which means that a foreign government, China, will be paying its landlord, who also happens to be the President of the United States, nearly $2 million a year in rent. Trump has expressed pride in this arrangement.
People think I don't like China. I love China. The largest bank in the world is a tenant of mine in Trump Tower.
But it could get him in trouble. A section of the Constitution called the Emoluments Clause says presidents can't accept payments or gifts from foreign governments. The founders added it during the Constitutional Convention of 1787 because they were worried about foreign governments using money to influence American politicians. But it's never really been tested by a president. Ronald Reagan, George H.W. Bush, Bill Clinton, and George W. Bush all had business ventures before entering the Oval Office, but they entrusted their businesses and investments to outsiders who they didn't communicate with while in office. This arrangement is called a blind trust, which is also what Donald Trump calls his plan to put his children in charge of his business. But as long as his children can talk to him about the business, this won't exempt him from conflicts of interest. You can see why if you look at Japan. When Trump met the country's Prime Minister, Shinzo Abe, a few days after the election, Ivanka Trump was also there. At the time, Ivanka was working to close a business deal between her clothing line and a Japanese company called Sané International, a company whose largest shareholder happens to be a state-owned bank controlled by the Japanese government. Ivanka's old company is still part of her father's company. So if Abe were to put pressure on the bank to finalize the deal, Trump would benefit financially. And even if Trump keeps Ivanka out of future meetings with heads of state, they'll still have her husband, Jared Kushner's ear. Trump's son-in-law will serve as a senior advisor. Vice President Mike Pence has tried to downplay Trump's conflicts of interest.
If his kids are running the business, and if we're talking about buildings here, if he doesn't divest himself of the business, a lot of people are saying turn it into cash, he's going to know who the kids are doing business with. In fact, there was just a meeting in the last few days with some of his business partners from India. Doesn't that create a tremendous danger of a conflict of interest?
Well, I can tell you, in a recent interview after the election, the president-elect summed up his view of his interest in his business life with 2 words. He said, "Who cares?"
But his actions indicate that he does care. After the election, Trump met with British politician Nigel Farage. During their meeting, Trump complained about a proposed wind farm wrecking the view from his golf course in Aberdeen, Scotland. Trump reportedly urged Farage to oppose the proposal, and though nothing has happened so far, Trump's willingness to mix private and political matters creates the impression that he might be willing to trade political favors for personal profit. In Turkey, that seems to have happened already. After Trump called for an American ban on Muslims, Prime Minister Erdogan demanded that his name be removed from the Trump Towers in Istanbul. But when a military coup threatens Erdogan's power, Trump expressed his support.
That was a quick coup. I was actually surprised to see how well it was handled.
Erdogan backed down, and Trump's name remains on the towers. Since Trump refuses to disclose all of his business dealings, we can't know how many others might exist. But the one that looms largest is Russia. A leaked intelligence report indicates that Putin and the Russian government may have compromising material on Trump. But we don't need unverified reports to know that the relationship between the two is odd.
Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin launching a mutual admiration society of sorts.
Do you want to be complimented by that former KGB officer?
Well, I think when he calls me brilliant, I'll take the compliment, okay?
Because Trump has refused to release his tax returns, we don't know if he owes money to Russian oil billionaires close to Putin.
The discussion in the region, certainly in intelligence services that deal with Russia, is that his behavior looks like someone who may be compromised or may be concerned about something, and nobody knows what that is, if it's financial ties or financial leverage, if it's something more than that. I don't know.
The only way for Trump to deal with all these conflicts of interest is to sell his companies, and then put someone besides his children in charge of the financial proceeds. Senate Democrats have introduced a bill that would require Trump to do this. If this doesn't happen, we'll never really know whether Trump is putting the American people first or his business interests.